The source of our learning should be a panacea. We can start from the Mishnah. Mem Gimel Amud Beis. Easy start. Shachtu be shechted. He shechted. He shechted it. He shechted his par, which Reb Naftali, that was one par with two viders, right? Bekibel b'mizrikes damai. Remember we said that he would do a shchita, but he would have to let someone else finish it off. That's the way we said, because he had to do the Kabbalah as well. Now, he had to make an interruption. After the shchita and the Kabbalah, he had to make an interruption to go get the coals for the ketairos. So, in order to do that, he didn't want the blood to congeal. So he handed it over to someone else to stir the blood so it doesn't congeal. Now, where would that be done? That was al-Revid haravi shebehechal. Now, the tiles of the Beis Hamikdash floor were rows. So this would be the fourth row. The Gemara thinks it means the fourth row into the Heichal. The Gemara is going to change and say it's the fourth row out of the Heichal. But Revid haravi from the Heichal. The fourth row of tiles. And why was this being done? So that the blood shouldn't congeal. Then what happened was, Natal Machta, he takes a fire pan, a shovel, the Olal Reshim Mizbeach, and he goes up to the top of the Mizbeach, and he moves the coals this way and that way. And then he scoops up from the inner burnt coals, the ones that are well burnt, and and he goes down and he puts the fire pan on the fourth row of the azara, fourth row of the tiles. We're going to have a whole list here of how the service of Yom Kippur was different. Now, the reason that the Gemara is going to give for all of these differences, a bunch of differences, is to make it easier for the Kohen Gadol, so that the Kohen Gadol shouldn't have to do any extra work. The work should be as light as possible because of the effort, that the exertion. We don't want the Kohen Gadol to become exhausted. Every day when the coals were scooped up, you see on the inner mizbeach where the ketairos was offered, you didn't burn wood there. You took coals that was already, the smoke has already gone out. You took those coals and you brought it into the heichal. You put it down on the mizbeach hapnim, and you put the incense on top of it. So what was used to scoop up the coals from the mizbeach to put it on the mizbeach hapnim? Every day they used a silver shovel. But then when he would enter into the heichal, he would use a gold shovel. So how would he do it? He would pour it from one to the other. Why? The Gemara is going to say, why didn't they use a gold one just to take it in? Why do you have to do this pouring? He says, because when you would scoop in, it would rub out the gold, and the silver would last longer. Or maybe the silver wasn't expensive, even if it would get rubbed out, it wasn't. But today we would use gold directly. Why? Because we don't want the Kohen Gadol to have to exert himself by doing this extra pouring from one to the other. And he would go directly in with the golden one. Today he would go directly in. The shovel would contain 4 kav. How much is a kav? 24 eggs. The size of 24 eggs. So every day you would take a bus kavin. I guess it's the size of 96, right? And pour it into one that's a quarter less than that. So what would happen? He would take a lot of coals and then he would pour it on a regular day, and then pour it into a smaller one, and there would be coals that would fall over onto the floor, or it would be heaping, and some would fall over. Then the Gemara is going to tell us that they would wash it into, or sweep it into the Amma, and it would get, what's wrong? Oh, and then they would sweep the coals. No one should get hurt. They would sweep it into the stream that went through the Beis Hamikdash. Today on Yom Kippur, they didn't do any pouring from one to another, so they just took directly 3 kav, a shovel that contained 3 kav, and that's what they would take in. That's double the size. Rabbi Yossi says that it wasn't pouring from one that was a quarter larger, but one that was double the size. A saw is 6 kav, 144 eggs. So, and he would pour it into one that's half the size, 3 kav. But today, everyone agrees today, the way, oh, very nice. Today they would just go directly in with the 3 kav. So everyone agrees to that. The question is the rest of the year. Every day it was heavy, today it was light. What does it mean it was light? Maybe the material was thicker. Huh? When it's gold, it's light. Gold is very heavy. They told me in the South Africa, in the there's a gold mine or something. They put over there a brick of gold. They say if you can lift it, you can keep it. Oh, you know? They didn't give me the option. They put it on a velvet table. I think it's very hard to like get any grip on it, even if you're. So they just put it down. You can't get it. So, every day it had a long handle. Today it had every day it had a short handle. Today it had a long handle. You see that? Very interesting. Every day the gold was yarik. Yarik is either yellow or green. I assume it's over here it means yellow. So that's what I'm familiar with. We're on Mem Gimel with base towards the bottom. But today the gold was red. Yeah, the Gemara is going to tell us the different colors of gold. The different golds that we have is probably like treated with something. No, is that how it works?
Well, usually it's the alloy that's mixed in that controls the color. I mean, there are different shades of gold, definitely, but it's generally the alloy chosen.
So I've seen pink gold. And
yes, for example, rose gold. A lot of jewelry is made out of rose gold. That means copper is the alloy that goes in. When it has a beautiful sheen to it, it means silver is the alloy that's gone into it. There are a lot of different ways. I'm trying to get a picture of what's going on here. So the Kohen Gadol, he walks up the ramp with a shovel, right? He gets a shovel full of ashes and turns around and walks down, and then turns right.
It's coals.
Of coals,
right.
And he turns right.
He goes down the ramp
and has to turn right to go into the space between the Mizbeach and the Ulam. Now he goes up the steps, through the Ulam, into the Hakel.
Yeah, so what he's going to do first.
And dumps these coals on the Mizbeach, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Actually, is he going on the Mizbeach or is he going into the Lefnai v'Lefnim? Is he going into the Kodesh HaKadoshim first?
Well, the Mizbeach HaKatoris was in the Hakel, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he does the Shechita. Now he's going to do the Ketores. Was the regular Ketores of the morning performed already? Wasn't the Ketores done during the Korban Tamid in the morning? Yeah, he did this. You see, on Yom Kippur there's 2 Ketores. There's the Ketores that's Pras B'Shachris and Pras Bein Arbayim, and then there's the Ketores of Mulei Chafna. that he brings inside, the scoopful, the extra scoopful. Now in the morning, I'm not sure why we're discussing over here the differences, because this is entirely different. This is the Malay-Chavna. This is the extra one.
Mhm.
We said before that the Keteris was done before the Avarim of the carbon tamid, that was done much earlier. Remember, Atavis Space Neris was Kedemis Avarim.
Yeah.
Kedemis is Kedemis Keteris Kedemis Avarim. Okay, so I'm not sure. I hear what yes. I'm not sure what's going on. What happened to the first Keteris, the morning Keteris?
Thank you.
Yeah, I assume this is the one that's going to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This is the
Now I'm
complicated.
confused. What went into the Kodesh Kadoshim? What was there except the Aron?
He would put on the stone. He would put down the shovel He would put down the shovel, and then he would allow the incense to go over the coals that were in the shovel. He didn't pour the shovel anywhere. He put it down just on the ground, on the stone. He did the Keteris.
But that was in what's called the Hakel, right? The room outside the Kodesh.
Right, that's the regular Keteris. Now he goes in Kiba Anna Neira. This is the cloud of the Keteris that he goes in. Now in there, he's also going to do some sprinkling. He's going to sprinkle the blood in between the badim. And then he's going to come out and sprinkle the blood in the Heichel as well.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the complication here is that that difficult avodah of how to hold the fire pan. I think he has to use his elbows, and to also hold the keteris. I think it would go under one arm to get this, and then he would put it down and then empty it. It's supposed to become a complicated service to be able to do that. So, unless you do it outside, it doesn't matter. You still have to walk. But the Tzedukim, remember, we said that they would do it outside, and he would walk in with the cloud. They learned it differently. Okay. You see, every day there was a half a money, every day there was half a money in the morning, pras means half, and half in the afternoon. But today there was an additional scoopful of 2 handfuls. Every day it was ground regularly. Today it was ground very fine. Every day the kohen would walk up the ramp on the right side of the ramp, on the eastern side, and then they would circle around the mizbeach and would come down on the western side. It's like one-way traffic. You see, the Kodesh HaKadoshim was on the west. It's confusing for us in America.
No, I was thinking of it said that the Kohen is north, but then there was a bar there. You could be north and still like that. It's south. We're going.
So, Vayem Ken Gadol, okay. Today he walks up the center, in the middle of the road, the ramp. He walks up the middle of the ramp and he goes down in the middle of the ramp. He doesn't need to stay in lane. Rabbi Yehuda says the Kohen Gadol was always allowed to do this. Every day he would use the kiyar. Today he used a special bucket of a golden bucket to wash his hands and feet. That's the second time Rabbi Yehuda tells us that the Kohen Gadol would always do this. He always had the special basin. what these are for, apparently on the Mizbeach, there's a discussion how many fires there were. There was one large one called the Marach G'dayla, and that was for the Karbanis. Then there was a smaller one that was used for get coals for the Ketairas, right? Marach Shniya. How were there more than that? So Rabbi Meir says that every day there were actually 4, and today there was a 5th one. And Rabbi Yossi B'chol Yom Shalish V'Yom Arba. Rabbi Yossi says every day there were 3, but today there's a 4th. In other words, everyone agrees there's another one today. Rabbi Yehuda B'chol Yom Shtayim V'Yom Shalish. Rabbi Yehuda takes it down to the bare minimum. Every day there were 2 fires, and then today was a 3rd one. Yeah, it's sort of like how many candles the ladies light. So, and then there's an extra one for a yahrzeit candle just to have for Yom Tov. Then there's another yahrzeit for someone else. So there's another. So, okay. Yeah, that happens also. The Gemara asked the question right away. V'aksiv, we said that someone had to stir the blood while he went to get the coals for the ketairas. We didn't want it to congeal. Now, where was he stirring the blood? We said it was on the 4th row of the heichal. There's a little bit of a problem because he has to be stirring the blood until the ketairas is finished. Until the Kohen Gadol is ready to go back and take it. There's a problem. He can't be in the heichal during the ketairas. No one is allowed to be in the oil mayad, which is the heichal, when he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Tanish Shel Heichal. Rabbi Yehuda is an Amira. Rabbi Yehuda by Yecheskel is a Talmud of Rav and Shmuel. He explains that the Mishnah is referring to not the 4th row in the heichal, 4th row outside the heichal. So you count 4 from outside the heichal. We're going to have later in the Gemara. What does outside the heichal mean? Does it say outside the heichal in the Azara or outside the heichal in the Ulam? If you have a commentary there. In the Ulam was that front room. Sunday, as it says. Yeah, Tanur Rabbanan. Okay, I'm not sure. The Gemara later is going to discuss. You see, there's many levels of holiness. And the Gemara is going to discuss where the border is of the heichal. Is the border of the heichal the door of the heichal, and then the ulam is outside, or is the border of the heichal the ulam, and then the azara would be outside? So Rashi says, "Kishiyitzim in a heichal azara." Sounds like it's the azara. Tanur Rabbanan. Was taught in the Brisa. No one is allowed to be in the Oyel Mayed when the Kohen goes inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Kohen Gadol goes inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim to offer the Ketairas. That's the rule. It's a possible. No one's allowed to be in the Oyel Mayed when the Kohen Gadol is offering the Ketairas. Now, what does it mean, the Oyel Mayed? Yachal afilu ba'azara. Maybe you can't have anyone in the Azara. Talmud Aimer ba'Oyel Mayed. Yeah, his Nassan's comparing it to Yiska. You never know if that's accurate. Officially, Yiska that we say on Yom Tov, I think was originally only on the Yom Neran. At least the Yekasha shows, I think it was only the Yom Neran. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Do we do Yiska on Rosh Hashanah? No, just Yom Kippur. Just Yom Kippur. Originally it was just Yom Kippur. Yeah, and that if that's the case, then that would be an interesting commemoration. Talmud Laimer Ba'Oyel Mayed. No, they can be in the Azara. It says the oil mayad they can't be. Ainly yellow by oil mayad sheba midbar. If you're getting so technical, maybe it's only in the midbar. Shila yebesalam minayin. How do you know that the same halacha applies later? Tamulemer bakaydash. Okay. Ainly ela b'shas haktara. B'shas matan damim minayin. Okay, now there's an interesting question. There's two things that he does. He sprinkles the blood inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim as well, besides for offering Ketores. So clearly, when he goes to offer the Ketores, that's what we've learned, that no one's allowed to be in the Ayom Mayim. What about by the Matan Damim, when he's just sprinkling the blood? It says when he's coming to atone. That extra word, coming to atone, would be including also the sprinkling of the blood. No one should be there. I only know when he's entering in. When he's going in. How do you know when he's coming out also? It says when he's coming out until he comes out. He will atone for himself, for his family, for his household, and for all of Klal Yisrael. Yeah, there's in there that also referring to the Kayanim. Himself, his family. There's the Kayanim as well, and then there's Klal Yisrael. Okay, it doesn't have it itemized. But kaparase kedemis the kaparas basic kedemis the kaparas echavakainim kedemis the kaparas kol Klal Yisrael. He does this in order. First, he atones for himself, like we learned before. That let the person that's clean come and atone for those that are guilty. So first he atones for himself, and then for the family, and then for Kayanim, and then for Klal Yisrael. Okay, Amar Mar, we were taught in this brisa that we just learned, Einli ala b'shas haktara. I only know at the time of offering the kataras. My mashma. Why would you think that? Amar Rava, v'chein Amar Bitzchak bar Avdimi, v'chein Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Kra, v'chiper ba'ad v'ad beis v'ad kol Klal Yisrael. Eize kapara sheshava loy lebeis elecha v'kainim kol Klal Yisrael. He said that it's going to be an atonement for all of the people, himself, his family, Kainim. Which one is an atonement? Which sacrifice atones for everyone? Now, if it's the par, the blood of the par, so that atones for him, his family, and for the Kainim. The Sa'ir atones for Klal Yisrael. If it's the Sa'ir, so it's not for the Kainim. So I need something that's mechaper on everything, because that's what it says. That must be the Kataris. The Gemara asks, Kataris mechaperis? But the Kataris is considered an atonement. Kataris was something extra, like maybe a sweet smell, reach michayach or something. I don't know, what does it say exactly, reach michayach? Does it say it only by a specific carbon, maybe just by an oil or something? I'm not sure. Whatever it is, does it say that the Kataris is mechaper? The Gemara says it does say that it's mechaper. The Tani Reb Chananya lamadnu l'Kataris shemechaperes shenemar v'yitinas hakataris v'yechaper ala'am. This was after the spies, I think, the people were dying. They said that the Kataris kills. I'm sorry, not by the spies, by Kairach. It says that they brought the Kataris and then they died. It says the Kataris is a poison. People are dying from Kataris. He says no, the Kataris stops. So he brings the Kataris, and that's an atonement. He goes around the people, and it's an atonement for the sin. So B'tana de Rabbi Shmuel al Kataris mechaperes. What does the Kataris atone for? Al lashon hara. Yavi davar shebechashai v'yechaper al ma'aseh chashai. The Kataris is inside the Heichal. It's done privately. So let the private service come and atone for the sin that's done in private, which is lashon hara, gossip. People say gossip in private. I think they also say gossip while they're smoking. Sit around. Today vaping. Sit around and schmooze. Okay, social, setting. That's not really, it's private, but whatever. Uh, oh, really? That sounds like the old films. The old films, it was always fun.
The Chofetz Chaim makes a lot out of this to indicate the seriousness of Lashon Hara.
That the Keteris is used for the sin that everyone takes lightly.
Yeah, that it's such a serious avera that it needs its own special activity, and it must be done in private. He makes a lot about from this passage.
I think that's really interesting because you say everyone takes Lashon Hara lightly, and because the smoke is light, it just goes up. We're not going to leave it to the leader, but we take it lightly, and we need something that's lightly.
Dr. Stein is saying that we take Lashon Hara lightly, and the smoke is also very light, and it just floats around. You get a thumbs up. Yitzi's not there for the trophy.
Yitzi, where are you?
Tana Rabbanan. Okay. It's not like the fun's over, but this is a quite a complex piece. At least it was for me this morning. Tana Rabbanan. I'm sorry, Tinan Hassam. It was taught in the Mishnah. Parshim mi bein ha'olam v'lam mizbeach b'shas ha'ktara. By the Keteris, they had to leave the Heichal. Besides for the Heichal, they also had to leave the bein ha'olam v'lam mizbeach. There was another 22 amas outside the ulam, in between the ulam and the mizbeach, that no kayin was allowed to be there either. Amar Rabbi Lazar, leishan ola b'shas ha'ktara deheichal. B'shas ha'ktara delachmai v'lefnim, meheichal parshim ben ulam l'mizbeach le'parshim. Rabbi Lazar says that it sort of like moves in sync. So when the kain gadol is in the kodesh hakadashim, no one's allowed to be in the heichal. But outside the heichal, that's acceptable. Even bein olam l'mizbeach, no, it's very close, but. However, when the Kohen Gadol is in the Heichal doing the Keteris, no one's allowed to be Bein Olam Mizbeach. So it's like in sync. And inside is removed from the Heichal. In the Heichal, removed from Bein Olam Mizbeach. But the double step, that's fine. That's what Rebbe Lazar says. That's Rebbe Lazar. Masav Ravada Barava Ba'amrila Kedi. Kedi is a whole discussion. I read an essay on this. Kedi is either someone's name or it's anonymous. A question from Rabbi Barav, and some say that it was asked by Kedi or by anonymously. Rabbi Yossi Omer, here's where it gets a little bit complex because there's two ways of reading what we're about to read. And it's going to be understood one way, which is going to create a question. And then we'll have to reread it, and we'll say, no, there's no question. So it says like, Rabbi Yossi says like this. Kishem sheparshim mebein ulam v'lam mizbeach b'shas haktara, kach parshim b'shas matan par kayin mashiach par helm davar shel tzibur siri avedis kechavim. So we throw in another item here to confuse us. It goes like this. Besides for having to leave the ulam v'lam mizbeach at the time of the haktara, at the time of the keteris, you also have to leave the ulam v'lam mizbeach, that 22 amma area, at the time of the sprinkling of the blood. So he adds in not just keteris, but also sprinkling of the blood. Now, which sprinkling of the blood was done inside the heichal? There are a few korbanos that the blood was brought inside. Usually the blood is sprinkled on the outside altar. But there's a few korbanos that it goes inside. Those korbanos are par kayin mashiach. If the kayin gadol paskins for himself and he makes a mistake and he violates the law, so he brings a special chatas. Par helam davar shel tzibur. That's if the bezdin makes a mistake, and everyone follows it. They have to bring a community par. Then there's sirya ve'des kechavim. If the bezdin makes a mistake about a type of service, it's the last expression. Type of service of avodah zarah, they say that it's permissible. No, it's in Parsha Shlach. It's next expression. The type of service last week was the returning the money from the ger. So what happens over here? You have to bring the blood also inside. So there's several kabbanas that the blood is brought inside. Okay. We have to, at that time when the blood is brought inside, besides for the ketairos, at the time the blood is brought inside, you also have to leave beina ulam v'lam mizbeach, the area outside. According to this, what is the significance, the advantage, the superiority of the heichal over beina ulam v'lam mizbeach? You have to leave that area as well during that time. Parshim bein b'shas haktara, bein shalei b'shas haktara. The heichal you have to leave. No one's allowed to be there. The Gemara is understanding it right now to mean. Let's do it in a way that's going to be a question. There's two possible services. One is sprinkling blood, and one is ketairos. There's two possible locations that we're talking about also. That's either the Kodesh HaKadoshim or the Heichal. The Heichal I have to leave whether I was doing the Ketairos or whether I was doing Matan Damen. That's Bein B'Shas HaKtara, Bein Shalei B'Shas HaKtara. Whether it wasn't a Ketairos, which means it was Matan Damen, it was the sprinkling of the blood. Bein Ulam V'Lam Mizbeach, but the Ulam V'Lam Mizbeach, Ein Parshim Ela B'Shas HaKtara. You only have to leave the Bein Olam Lamizbeach at the time of the Ketairos. Well, Rabbi Yossi says, "Kshem sheparshim Bein Olam Lamizbeach b'shas haktara, kach parshim b'shas matan parkain Mashiach." So the understanding over here is that what we're referring to is that when I'm doing a service in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, I have to go out of the Heichal. Bein b'shas haktara, bein shalei b'shas haktara. I have to go out of the Heichal. And bein olam lamizbeach, I have to leave bein olam lamizbeach when? When I'm doing the Ketairos lifnai v'lifnim. So remember how Rabbi Lazar says it's in sync. That by the Ketairos of you have to leave the Heichal. The Ketairos of the Heichal, you have to leave Bein Olam Mizbeach. Now, the way we're understanding it is that there's an advantage to the Heichal where I have to leave the Heichal when I'm doing the blood in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. But I don't have to leave the Ulam Mizbeach when I'm doing the blood in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. I only have to leave Bein Olam Mizbeach when I'm doing the Ketairos in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This creates a question, Rabbi Lazar, because Rabbi Lazar said that you never need to leave Bein Olam Lamizbeach when you're doing something in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. You only have to leave the Heichal then. We're saying that the advantage of the Heichal is that you have to leave when you're doing the blood in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. You have to leave the Heichal. That's the advantage. But you don't have to leave Bein Olam Lamizbeach when you're doing the blood in the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
Could you just repeat that without using the word subject? Because I'm not sure.
No. The Kayanim are not allowed to be in the area when the Kayan Gadol is doing the service. Okay. So originally we said that when the Kayan Gadol is in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Kayanim can't be in the Heichal. When the Kayan Gadol is in the Heichal doing the service, the Kayanim can't be Bein Olam Lamizbeach. Now what we're saying is, what's the advantage of the Heichal over Bein Olam Lamizbeach? It says, that when the Kohen Gadol is doing both types of service in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he's doing the Haktara, the Ketores, and he's also doing Matan Damim, sprinkling of blood. Both of them, he can't be in the Heichal. However, the Kohanim can't be in the Heichal. However, when it comes to the Beinu Ulam V'La Mizbeach, when the Kohanim allowed to be outside the Heichal, Beinu Ulam V'La Mizbeach, that's acceptable when the Kohen Gadol is doing the sprinkling of the blood inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, but it's not acceptable when the Kohen Gadol is doing the Ketores in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So you see, the Heichal has this superiority that even when the Kohen Gadol is doing the blood, Kohanim can't be there. So you're one trophy late. We have one. B'shas Haktara. Now the Gemara finishes the question, Rabbi Lazar. B'shas Haktara miya parshi. But at the time of the Haktara, he does have to leave. My love, b'shas Haktara de lifnai v'lifnim. We're talking about that the Ketores of lifnai v'lifnim of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you have to leave Bein Olam V'La Mizbeach. It's a kasha in Rabbi Lazar. The Gemara says, "Loi, b'shas Haktara de heichal." That's not what it meant. It meant that when you're doing the Haktara in the heichal, then you can't be Bein Olam V'La Mizbeach. Gemara says, "Yihachi ma ma'ala v'sulai." It's asking, what's the difference? What's the advantage of the heichal? And it came up with this one item that when you're doing the Haktara, ha'ika ha'maila. But we have the other difference. I'm not sure why the Gemara is not asking that it's a difficulty reading, because now Rabbi Yossi says, "Kshem sheparshim ben olam zech b'shas Haktara, kach parshim b'shas matan parkain." It's clear that by the blood you have to yeah. We're going to have to say that the Gemara is accepting that by the Matan Damim of the Heichel, you have to leave Bein Olam V'La Mizbeach. What we mean is, how do we say B'shas Haktara de Heichel? It's only the time of Haktara de Heichel you have to leave Bein Olam V'La Mizbeach. Let's, if you read it again, back from the base of the Bach, the base, Ma ma'ala yesh ben Heichel Bein Olam Mizbeach. Al shebeheichel parshim bein b'shas Haktara, bein shalei b'shas Haktara. The Heichel I have to leave whether I'm doing the Ketores or the Matan Damim. Now, where am I doing that? In the Kodesh HaKadoshim or in the Heichel? Whatever the case is, probably both. Whatever the case is, mi bein ha'malulim v'la mizbeach ein parshim ela b'shas Haktara. No, that's going to be a problem. B'shas Haktara of the Lefnai v'Lefnim, I have to leave the bein olam v'la mizbeach. No, so what it means is ela b'shas Haktara of the Heichel, and it's back exactly what Rabbi Lazar said, that at the time of the Haktara of the Heichel, you have to leave bein olam v'la mizbeach. Yeah.
In English, it's Gemara now understands it as alluding to a time in which the incense is not burned in the sanctuary, but is burned elsewhere, namely in the Holy of Holies. According to the Brisa, accordingly, the Brisa is identifying the stringency of the Heichal as the it just goes into whole.
Okay, so the Gemara asks, if that's the case, that you're just telling me that there's an advantage of the Heichel that you have to leave when the Ketores is being performed in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and that's the whole thing. But Bein Olam V'La Mizbeach, you don't have to leave when the Ketores is being brought in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. But I have other advantages of the heichal. I have ha'ika ha'maila. I have the other advantage. The ilam heichal parshi bein b'shas akdar didei bein b'shas akdar d'lefnai b'lefnim. The heichal I always have to leave when the keteris is being brought in the heichal or it's being brought in the kodesh hakadashim. Ilam bein olam mizbech le parshi ala b'shas akdar the heichal. But bein olam mizbech I don't have to leave if it's being brought in kodesh hakadashim. The Gemara says, "Hakatani ala shebehechol parshim bein b'shas akdar bein shlei b'shas akdar bein olam mizbech ein parshim." That's exactly what the brisa meant. So, what was the question in the middle? Just give me a second. Let me look at this Rashi. Ihachi. Shem shepashim b'shas akdar hechol kari. By Maliesh. Shlei b'shas akdar dot naglat nem. Shlei b'shas akdar dot naglat nem deftani. Shbech parshim nem shalim. Echal. Ben shlei b'shas akdar el b'shas matnam. Parshim. Shlei b'shas akdar. Yeah. The difference between the heichal and bein ulam lamizbeach, according to the way we're understanding originally, was matan damim. Matan damim is the sprinkling of the blood, the giving of the blood onto the altar or wherever it was sprinkled. And then there's the kataris, the incense. So there's two activities. We thought that the difference between the heichal and bein olam lamizbeach, originally we were saying that the difference is that the heichal I have to the bein olam lamizbeach. If the matan dam, if it's at the time of matan dam, I'm allowed to be bein olam lamizbeach. But I'm not allowed to be bein olam lamizbeach in that area at the time of the kataris. Now that was a kasha in Rebbe Lazar. So then the Gemara says that actually that's not what we meant. We meant to say that you're not allowed to be in the heichal when the kataris is being brought l'fnai b'lefnim, and you're not allowed to be in the heichal by the matan damim. But you're not allowed to be bein olam lamizbeach also by when the kataris is being brought in the heichal, and when the matan damim is being done in the heichal. But the matan damim inside, it doesn't matter. And when the kataris is being brought inside, bein olam lamizbeach is fine. The Gemara is now asking that why do you have to mix in the matan damim? The advantage of the heichal is that if the kataris is being brought inside, then you have to leave the heichal. If the kataris is being brought in the heichal, then you have to bring ulam mizbeach. That itself is an advantage of the heichal over the ulam mizbeach. The kataris aspect, that the kataris lefnai v'lefnim in the kodesh hakadashim only causes the heichal, but it doesn't cause that the kayanim need to leave. Why do you have to throw in that the matan damim is the difference? The kataris itself is a difference. So the Gemara answers, that's what we meant. El shebehechol parshin bein b'shas akdar bein shlei b'shas akdara ubein olam mizbeach ein parshin ela b'shas akdara. And I have a problem here. Bein b'shas akdara. Bein b'shas akdara dehechol. Shlei b'shas akdara. Tani. Shlei b'shas akdara today. Ela b'shas akdara dot. Oh, that's what we're answering. Yeah. The way the Gemara is learning it now is like this. I have to leave, the Kainim need to leave the Heichal. Bein b'shas haktara, bein shlei b'shas haktara. Whether I'm doing the Keteris in the Heichal or whether I'm doing the Keteris in shlei b'shas haktara is not matan damim. It's when I'm doing the Keteris lefnai v'lefnim. I have to leave the Heichal. However, bein olam v'lam mizbeach, I only have to leave b'shas haktara when I'm doing the Keteris in the Heichal. But when I'm not doing the Keteris in the Heichal, I'm doing the Keteris lefnai v'lefnim. I don't have to leave the Kainim don't have to leave Bein Olam V'lam Mizbeach. That's the way the Gemara is learning it. So we are dealing with Keteris only. B'shas haktara, shlei b'shas haktara means, are you doing the Keteris in the Heichal, or are you doing the Keteris in the Kiddush HaKadoshim? Okay.
So is the principle here that they had to be one rishus removed
Yeah.
from the activity?
Yeah,
And
that's
is
how we
there-
resolve the Belozer.
Yeah, and is there ambiguity here as to whether the ulam is a
Yeah, that will
rishus?
come to shortly. Now we'll see. The Gemara asks, "Veka ha'mayla dilam hechel parshi ben kedusha didei ben kedusha v'lefnai v'lefnim v'lebein olam v'hechel parshi ela b'kedusha dehechel." If you're changing the way the brisa that was quoting Rabbi Yossi, and you're only discussing the Ketairas, so then you're dropping the whole concept of the Matan Damim. What about the Kedusha, when it says Kedusha? What about the Matan Damim? You're not taking that into account when you're trying to say what's the advantage of the Heichal over Bein Olam V'lam Mizbeach, and you're saying that the advantage is that the Heichal you have to leave even if the Ketairas is being done the Kodesh HaKadoshim. What about the Matan Damim? You also have to leave when the Matan Damim is being done in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Gemara answers, Amarav Hashem Krisha Achasi. You just combine them together. The fact that you have to leave, whether it's the Ketairas or whether it's the Matan Damim or the sprinkling of the blood, would be under the same category. Okay, Amar Mar. One of the things that we mentioned was Kach Parshim B'Shas Matan Parkein Mashiach Parham David Shetzibar V'Sir Avetz Kechaber. When that blood is being sprinkled inside the Heichal, you have to leave the Bein Olam V'lam Mizbeach. Only the Kayan that's doing that service is allowed to be there. Minalan, where do we know this from? Amarav Kedas, Asi Kapara Kapara Miyem Kippurim. We actually learn it from Gezerah Shava. Just like by Yom Kippur he has to leave, also by those services he also has to leave. Amarav Acha Barava. Rav Ada Barava. There's a correction. Rav Ada Barava says, Shma mina mailas deraisa v'hachig mirilo. There's a mission at the beginning of Kalim. Over there it says that the Harabayas is more holy than Yerushalayim. On the Harabayas itself is an area called the Chel. That's more holy than the Harabayas. Then there's the Ezras Nashim. That's more holier than the Chel. And then there's the Ezras Yisrael. That's holier than the Ezras Nashim. And then there's the Ezras Kayanim, which is holier than the Ezras Yisrael. And then there's the Bein Olam V'lam Mizbeach, which is holier than the Ezras Kayanim. And then you have the Heichal. Is holier than Bein Olam V'lam Mizbeach. He says, obviously, all of these distinctions are deraisa. Because if we would say, because if you would say it was rabbinic, what is our concern? Our concern is, why are you telling me that you can't be Bein Olam V'lam Mizbeach, Dilma Mikri V'ayli? Maybe you're going to end up going in to the Heichal at the time when he's doing it. So we say that you can't be one step removed, one territory out, right? Because we're afraid if you're going to be that close, you may make a mistake and come in. So we take you out one step, one level. The problem is, Mikul Azar Nami Nefreshu. Maybe you should go out from the whole Azara. Dilma Mikri V'ayli, maybe they're going to enter in. Now, what we're saying here is that if there's no real spiritual demarcation of what the territories are, so then why are you making some line halfway? You're making up a line in between Bein Olam and Mizbeach that's holier. Then it's if you're going to make a decree, so make it on the whole area. It must be that even biblically, there's a distinction between this territory and that territory, and that's why the rabbis are saying just one territory is you have to be removed.
It's interesting if you just go from the other side, the fact is, again, all the doors are open. I mean, assuming we have a code, so even though you're in a physical place, like we're in Mount Hill, so to say, we can go around in the condition. I think that's good, but I mean, the word's not only when you have to retract, you're not the only one who have to separate.
So the Gemara says it's not necessarily so, because it could be that really there is no demarcation spiritually, but there is a demarcation physically. Really, the whole Azar is one territory. He said, you know what, there's a Mizbeach there that interrupts. You're not going to walk past the Mizbeach. So it could be that these distinctions are rabbinic. But Bein Olam and Mizbeach, I have nothing blocking me. But Azara, even the Mizbeach achitz in the mafsik minkra milsa. That tells me that, so in other words, it could be all really one area spiritually and holiness. Amar Rabba Shmamina, Rabba says, from this we see Kedusha Sulam v'Heichel Chadam Milsi. The Ulam itself in the Heichel is all one area. These Kedushas Ninu, because if we would say that there's a distinction between the Ulam and the Heichel, Ulam Gufei Gezerah, you're not allowed to be in the Heichel. So let's make a Gezerah that you shouldn't be in the Ulam either. So now you're going to tell me that you can't be in the Ulam Alam Mizbeach also? How many territories do you want? It must be that the Ulam and the Heichel are one area. The Gemara says, Loi. Ulam, Ubein Ulam Alam Mizbeach Chad Kedusha. It's exactly the opposite. The Ulam and Bein Ulam Alam Mizbeach is one area. Heichel Ulam Shtei Kedushas, but the Heichel and the Ulam are separated. There's no way of knowing this. All we're saying is that, you can extend the line. I'm not allowed to be Bein Ulam Alam Mizbeach because I'm not allowed to be in the Heichel. Now, I can either include the Ulam itself as part of the Heichel, or I can include the Ulam as part of Bein Ulam Alam Mizbeach. And both of them, the Gezerah is going to work. Well, the only thing I can't do is say that there's three territories, because then I would have a question, why are you making Gezerah onto Gezerah? What if it be out of two? Right? But Rabba was trying to prove that obviously the Heichel and the Ulam is one Kedusha. Lav Daf gets one Kedusha. It could be the Ulam is part of Bein Olam Alam Mizbeach. Okay, let's leave it over here.